Hey, what's up everyone? Today we're going to turn this old dresser to a new modern looking rustic furniture. Stay there and keep watching. So we have this old dresser and we're going to make this look like a modern rustic furniture. First of all, we have to take away the top piece, and also we have to change the front face of the drawers. Now the material is made from a veneered particle board, so repainting it would be very hard if you are not very careful. First, we need to lightly sand it with a 240 grit sandpaper. Then I just use this wood filler for the screw holes. Let it dry for a couple of hours. Then after that, I just lightly sand it again to smoothen it off. One of the biggest challenges when you are repainting are the dusts after sanding. So make sure that you clean it thoroughly if you want a nice smooth surface. I also use this sugar soap to get rid of the extra dusts and grease that covered it for a very long time. You would also need a good undercoat so that the actual paint will stick harder and will easily chip away over time. Using a roller is the best way of doing this, as it won't create any streak lines like a brush would do. Wait for at least 24 hours for the undercoat to completely dry. It could be longer if the room that you're going to store it is colder. Give it a quick sanding again just to smoothen off the surface, and give it a right cleaning again so then you get rid of all the dust that surround the place. For the actual paint, I'm using this eggshell color. First, use this small brush to reach into the small gaps and corners, and switch back again to this roller to finish the rest. We need to give it at least 2 to 3 hours in between before we give it another coat. And here you can see me doing the second coat, but I actually did 3 coats for this project. Time to measure the top piece. I actually gave it a 10 mm overhang on all 4 sides. And for the front face of the drawers, I just simply copied the measurements from the old ones. All I'm using here is a rough 1x4 treated. The reason I'm using this is because I want it to look a bit rustic. And also I think it would add character into it. The easiest way to cut this is by using a table saw with a sled. Accurate, fast, and you're sure that you all have the same length. Double check the measurements, then transfer it to the table saw. This time I'm using a straight fence to guide the cut. What I'm doing here is I'm using 2 different shades of 1x4s for the front faces of the drawers. Then later on, I'm just gonna glue them together to make us one piece. In here, I'm assembling the top piece. I made a mistake earlier on cutting the boards, so to compensate for that, I have used thin strips of wood in between the boards. Glue them all up together, and I hope they look good later on. Next up is I'm gluing the front face of the drawers together. 4 drawers, so I'm making 4 faces. I have waited for at least 1.5 days for the glue to dry up. That way I'm sure that the glue is strong enough before I take the clamps off. Then it's time for planing and sanding of all the pieces. I have used my router to round off the edges.
You can also use a hand planer if you don't have a router, and then just sand it off after.
I have this done to all 4 front faces of the drawers and also for the top piece. To finish it off, I have used a 240 grit sandpaper to smoothen everything.
Then I also made a groove at the back of them for where the bases of the drawer is going into. Then I bore in some holes for the dowels where I'm going to attach the sides of the drawers.
Before I put them together, I have decided to varnish it off first. The birch color is what I have chosen for this.
I tried to get away from screws and nails on assembling this. I only use glue and then just clamp it tight together later on. It will be strong enough when it dries up anyway. I use some blocks to keep it square since I don't have any angled clamps. I know that the blocks are perfectly squared, so that will make all 4 corners even. What I have in here is a piece of a 2x4 that I'm going to use for the handles. I'm marking up my cuts and it will be divided into 2 sections. Put it on the table saw and do a cross cut on it. Using a cross cut sled would help the cutting a lot easier. I have made this sled a few months back. This actually helps me do my cross cuts a lot more accurate than before. Since I don't have a scroll saw, I just used the sled to make an undercut on the piece. I just lowered down the blade by about 10 mil, then made a few passes on the saw to make the handle. When the job was done, I just simply split the 2 pieces into 2 to make the 4 handles. I just smoothen it off on the sander. Once the sanding is finished, I just cleaned it off and then put an undercoat on it. I waited for at least 2 to 3 hours and then proceed to the painting. I did 3 coats on this since this is the part of the dresser that's going to be used more often. When the paint dries up completely, I mark where I'm going to put in the screws. All screws must have the exact positions on the handles. This part is critical. If not done precisely, the handles are not going to line up properly on the drawers. To be sure all the handles lines up straight, use a long straight edge with the markings. I always check 2 or 3 times on my measurements, but sometimes I still get it wrong. So make sure you are 100% right before you proceed on something. In here, I'm only using the old hinges to attach the top. And then after that, the finish. And there it is, finished project of a modern rustic dresser. I hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.